a couple of years ago and recorded it with a hero of mine, the legend that is Mavis Staples. And I kind of wrote it to remind myself of the small things that people do every single day of their lives. The small ways that people show up for their community, they show up for their friends and their family. They show up for the people that they love in small and sometimes kind of unremarkable ways, and how those things make a huge difference, you know? And there's these kind of small acts of love and solidarity that seem to hold the world together sometimes. And I also wrote this song to remind myself of the legacy of protest and direct action and community organization that we sometimes take for granted, and all these things that we benefit from every single day of our lives, everything that parts of our quality of life that we take for granted, that once upon a time had to be pushed for, protested for, and organized for, you know. And Mavis Staples, as you know, her family, the Staples singers, her father Pop Staples and her brothers and sisters, they used to sing before speeches during the American Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s. Why that was of some particular interest to me, coming from Ireland, is that that civil rights movement that happened in America directly inspired and directly impacted the civil rights movement that happened in Northern Ireland very, very shortly afterwards. And you have to understand it as a time and place that not every single citizen was guaranteed the right to vote in Northern Ireland at that time. I want to talk about these small little things that people do every single day of our lives. We turn to the people in our lives that we love and we say, hey, how's your day going? I'm here for you. I love you. I see what you're going through. It may not be my experience, but I witnessed it. I'm an honest witness to that, and I'm here for you. I'm not going to abandon you. And I think when people do that all at the same time in the same direction, there's nothing complicated about it. I think history has changed forever. I think the world has changed forever. And obviously we just celebrated Pride Month, and we take for granted that we want our LGBTQ+ siblings to have the same rights as us, to feel appreciated and feel safe in our society. That our trans siblings feel safe, appreciated in our society. And that's something that took a lot of protest and took a lot of direct action, and also took a lot of people switching on their human empathy, their human compassion, and saying, I would want you to have the same rights and the same experience of this society as I do every single day. We take for granted that women have the right to vote. Something that had to be pushed for so long. We take for granted that women should have reproductive rights. Something that my country only really achieved in 2018. It took far too long, but it wasn't until people started taking to the streets and grassroots activists started pushing for change that politicians would offer a mumbling fucking word about it, being straight up and honest about it. We take for granted the fact that we have a weekend to look forward to, a Saturday and Sunday, and that's something the Labour movement had to push very, very hard for. In the 1980s, there was a huge amount of divestment protests, you know, a huge amount of student protests also. People recognized that same honest witness, that same human empathy, what was going on in apartheid South Africa at the time. So they wouldn't want to maybe buy products from a system that profiteers off of apartheid, and there was a lot of divestment protests. Investment drew out of that system, and lo and behold, South Africa is no longer an apartheid state. And in the same way that in any community, in any city, we recognize we wouldn't want our neighbours to live in the fear of hatred, to live in the shadow of the fear of racism waiting around the corner. We know that that would be wrong. We know that we wouldn't want our neighbours to live in the fear of anti-Semitism. We wouldn't want them to live in the fear of Islamophobia. And just like how there's a lot of people protesting around the world and saying we wouldn't want to see any human being subject to the kind of violence we're seeing in Rafah at the moment, the kind of violence we've been seeing before Gaza over the last few months. And I've been singing this song in solidarity with anybody who would take to the streets or contact their representatives and ask them to support meaningfully a ceasefire in the Middle East. support a peaceful political solution. And that would secure peace and safety and security for everybody in that region, and that would mean seeing a Palestine free from occupation. Palestine free from violence and free to exercise self-determination. If you feel moved to contact your representatives or continue to do so, I so urge you to and would encourage you to. And I want to say thank you for letting me offer these words, and thank you for letting me witness the kind of goodwill, the kind of sweetness, the kind of love that I see on a day like today here in London. I see people getting together to enjoy each other's company and enjoy music. I see people looking out for their fellow concert goers who are feeling faint and who are falling over. And that's that same kind of goodwill and that compassion. These things are powerful, and these everyday things mean something, you know.